carve your soul into mine. That's what it said in big black lettering, spray painted up on the wall in Amsterdam. I was in Amsterdam, like wandering around in a daze, like totally numb. And then I turned a corner and I saw, I'll carve your soul into mine. It was like a shock to the system or a lightning bolt to the heart. I actually had to sit down on a bench opposite to catch my breath. I felt exposed, but not in a way that made me want to cover up, because I had been struggling to put into words how I was feeling, and this graffiti did it for me. So I was living in Cologne, Germany with my boyfriend. He was tall and handsome and soft-spoken. He was kind to strangers and he loved his mother. And he said he would love me for the rest of his life. So when he asked me to move in with him, like, of course I said yes. But very quickly, things changed. He would say things like, you have nothing intelligent to contribute to a conversation. When we'd go out, he would say it was embarrassing being seen with me. And I remember thinking, like, what does he even love about me? Why did he ask me to move in with him? Until one day he said, you have no place in my heart and my soul. And that was all I needed to know. So I woke up one morning, and while he was at work, I wrote a note and packed a bag and left everything else behind. And I walked to the train station and looked up at the board and was like, what's the first train out of Germany? 90 minutes later, I was over the border in the Netherlands, and I never saw him again. But I remember thinking on that train ride, I hope I die before I love anybody else. I shouldn't have laughed so loudly, and I shouldn't have dressed so garishly, because he said he would love me forever, and I fucked it up. In Amsterdam, staring at that graffiti, I noticed there was an artist tag underneath, and it said Laser 314. I'd never heard of Laser 314, but when I got up from the bench and turned around, there was another Laser 314 piece staring me right in the face, and it said, until our silhouette carves itself into the ground. And I was like, did this Laser 314 guy know I was coming to Amsterdam and decide to leave me like these inspirational quotes around the city? Because that's what it felt like. I'd be feeling like I deserved all this pain, and then I would turn a corner and I would see, you wanted control, now control wants you. I'd be feeling like, I'll never love again. And then I'd turn a corner and I would see, after love comes new love. I'd be feeling like maybe I'm becoming a new person, and then I would turn a corner and I would see, I peel off my skin so I can reveal the inner me. Or I'd be desiring a new connection with a person, and then I would turn a corner and I would see, I want to go down in a white heat. Because I'd never heard of Laser 314, I did a search online and I found a Facebook artist page, and I'd been taking photographs of all of his pieces that I came across. So I messaged him on Facebook and I sent him the pictures, and I just said how much I really liked his work. And to my surprise, he actually wrote back, and he was really flattered. And we struck up a correspondence. I guess you could say he became my friend. You know, he told me that he had a young son, but he wasn't with his son's mother anymore, and that made him really sad. And I was like, well, I'm going through a bad breakup myself. And he was like, you? I can't imagine you wouldn't have a boyfriend, especially with eyebrows like that. And I was like, thanks. I grow them myself. Okay, so I'm half Portuguese and half Lebanese. So it wasn't the first time someone had commented on my eyebrows, but it was the first time someone had suggested that I could like summon future lovers with them, you know? Anyways, I couldn't afford to pay rent in Amsterdam, so I went online and I joined a house sitting website, which is basically a service for rich people who are going on holiday and look for someone like me to look after their cats with renal failure or with diabetes. And so 5 days later, I had my very first house sitting gig in Brussels, and that lasted for 2 months. When that was over, back on the website, hustle, hustle, hustle. Then I was in Surrey, just outside of London, and then Copenhagen, and then Berlin, and then Paris, and then Vienna. I just did back to back to back to back house sits. But every time I had a few days in between house sits, I would make my way back to Amsterdam. In fact, in 1 year, I went back 8 times. And every time I was in town, I would message Laser 314 and I'd be like, hey, I'm in town. And he'd be like, hey, Browse. That became my nickname. Here's the latest locations of my work. Go photograph, go have fun. So I would spend my days under the Dutch sun, over antiquated cobblestones, ducking into alleyways, looking behind dumpsters, hopping construction site fences, just so I could find his graffiti, because it made me forget that I was a bad person. And it made me forget that I deserved all this pain, like he said. Anyways, after a few years of being a peripatetic waif, like completely nomadic, I decided it was time to go home to Canada, but not before one final trip to Amsterdam. And so I messaged Laser 314 and I was like, hey, I'm in town. And he was like, hey, Browse, here's the latest locations of my work. Go photograph, go have fun. You know, I never met him. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't even know his real name. Anyway, he sent me to like 12 different pieces that day, and it was the best day. I had so much fun. And the very last piece that he sent me to, you know, it was a really busy intersection in Amsterdam. It was around the corner from the Rijksmuseum, and so there were trams hurtling by, and bicycles dinging their bells, and tourists everywhere. And I turned the corner, and there, up on the wall, in big black lettering, I found, her brows were all it took. And it was in that moment I realized, maybe I don't have to see myself anymore the way the German did. Maybe I am a nice person, and maybe I didn't deserve all that pain. Thank you.